Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So for today's card I have a stencil from Simon Says Stamp from one of the kits. I have a scripty background from Hero Arts. I have Sunday's Sunset Drive from Spellbinders. And I have Lawn Fawn's outside in stitch scalloped rectangles, the two sort of middle ones. And I use those to create a frame. I've already put together the pieces from the Sunset Drive. They were a little bit fiddly, I've got to say, to put together because the pieces are so tiny, but it worked out quite cool. So I have my scalloped frame, and I just layered two of those frames inside each other onto the cardstock, so it created both the frame and the sort of inside piece. Both are scalloped, both have this lovely stitching detail. So I'm going to use the stitch detail as a guide to mask off the scallop on both the outside and the inside of the frame, and then also the inside of the middle scalloped rectangle, so that I can ink just those sections. So I've started with the outside part of the frame on the scallop, and now I'm working on the inside piece, which is kind of like a reverse scallop shape. And I even dug my scissors out to get a straight line so that I could get right in the corners of the stitching. It just means that when you go to ink it, it's going to be nice, and the lines are going to be nice and smooth and straight. Now the tape I'm using is a Craft Perfect tape from Tonic Studios, I believe, and it's actually one of my favorite tapes for die cutting, or sort of a low tack tape. Some low tack tapes are too low tack and they don't stick to anything, and some are still too sticky, and so they tear the paper, whereas this has actually been really good. So I'm really pleased with it. So if you can get your hands on it, I would. It's handy for this kind of thing, or for using it to hold your cardstock in place, your dies in place with your cardstock when you want to die cut them. So now that I've got that taped up, I'm taking picked raspberry and candied apple distressed oxide inks. I thought I'd use the oxide inks because they are more forgiving on pretty much any cardstock you use, and those of you who've been here long enough know that I use just about anything. I will pick up any cardstock and just try it to see what happens. And so I think this is just whatever was left over in my stash, that I picked out some white cardstock, and this is all I'm doing with it. I'm just going to try it. The oxide's very forgiving, like I think I said that. And it blends really well on even non sort of specialty papers and things. The best one for things like oxide is probably something like Bristol Smooth, but I'll try anything. So I started with the picked raspberry and just went around sort of, say, half the frame ish, and then I'm taking the candied apple and going around the rest of the frame, and then when I get the two to meet, I sort of overlap with the candied apple, just so that it gets a nice blend around the frame. I also, although I've taped this onto my desk, this like portrait style, I'm actually going to make this a landscape piece and a landscape card. So ignore, I'll show you where I make a few boo-boos actually. So now that that's done, I'm going to take the tape off so that it can dry. I'm also very careful because oxides do take a lot longer. Well, distressings take a lot longer to dry, but oxides I find are notorious. I'm always getting my fingers into something I shouldn't when I'm using them. So I'm just being a little careful when taking the tape off. But now I have a nice little coloured frame within my scallops. The other thing I want to say is that this it's not the center scallop goes a certain way. I can get my words in. So although I do turn it around quite a few times in a minute, it it fits in one way. It's not a sort of symmetrical, is that the right word? So it's not going to be, you can put it in any which way. It has to go in a certain way, like a puzzle piece. So I was trying to be aware of that when I then went to ink this middle panel, so that I made sure that I didn't have my colours going in the opposite way. In other words, if I'd not checked that my scallop was the right way up and would fit in there properly, then I would essentially have the colours the upside down from each other. I don't know if that made sense, but hopefully this will make more sense in a minute. So I'm checking that it's going to fit in there the right way, and then I'm using the frame I've already inked as a guide to see where and how far around each, like the top and the bottom, with each colour that I need to go, so that I can have the same colour at the top and the same colour at the bottom. Maybe I should have said that. So I started with my candied apple again around the outer scallop. So this time I've put the tape on the inside because I want that inside section to be white, and then I'm using my picked raspberry around the bottom section, the same as the frame, so they'll match up, and you'll see that when I put it properly together. So first boo-boo is that I didn't tape the center quite right, and it's glaringly obvious. I managed to, in one section, over ink, so in the top red, all in the red section of course. So I managed to over ink on the top left into the white section. I'll show you how I'm going to fix that. And then in the top right hand section of the red inked area, ink scalloped, I also missed a bit, so I will also fix that. So I will show you both those things because I think it's important to leave as much, this is why I leave my videos as I do, with as much of it in there, to show that these things happen. Just because we're making videos doesn't mean these things don't happen in real life. So to get the excess ink off, I just used a sand eraser. This thing it will last just about forever, but it does come in handy for things like this. And it just takes, I think it's just taken like the top layer of paper off, but it's so mild you can't see that to the naked eye. So I used that to get that excess off. And then to fix the where I'd not put enough ink, I just simply taped up against the stitch line again, and then just re-inked. I didn't even ink up my pouncer again. Forgot to mention, that's what I use, like mini pouncers, inking pouncers, whatever they're called. So my card base is a sort of creamy colour, and here comes the second boo-boo. I went to add my stencil. This is the Simon Says stamp. It's a hearts and stars stencil, and it came in one of the kits a couple of years ago, and thankfully the stencil goes any which way, so it doesn't matter whether I've got a landscape or a portrait card. The hearts and the stars make sense whichever way you look at it. So thankfully that worked out okay, because this is actually supposed to be a landscape card, not a portrait card. So that's a second boo-boo. Didn't have this the right way around, but it gets better. So I took the mini pouncers again. In all fairness, I should have used a bigger pouncer. This was quite, not really time consuming, but it was kind of painful on my hands. I have, I get a bit of joint pain in that in my hands, my fingers. So using a bigger pouncer that would have gone over a bigger area would have been a better idea, or a blending brush. It probably would have worked much better than this. It worked, but it was just a little uncomfortable for me. So, but again, I'm doing the same thing as I did around the frame. I'm using the candied apple at the top and working my way down, and then using the kind of at a diagonal-ish, and then using the picked raspberry on the bottom bit, and getting that in Oh, I think I started out as an angle and I changed my mind. And then getting the blend, like where the two meet in the middle-ish. The other thing to bear in mind is that I didn't actually have to do the entire front of this card because of where the frame and the inner part of the frame is going to sit. So I didn't really need to do the whole thing, but I did. And it was fine. So there's the hearts, and which looks great. I'm happy with it. I'm not used to working on cream color cardstock, so that was a bit weird for me, but I thought it would be nice for a sort of Valentine's-y. It's got a softer vintagey kind of thing, I think, cream's cardstock. Anyway, I didn't like the sort of glaringness of the background, so I grabbed the pouncers again, and you are not supposed to do what I'm doing here with a pouncer, but I did do this very gently, very lightly, and just went over the top of it. Didn't re-ink the daubers because there was enough ink on there, and it's oxide, so it takes a little longer to dry. So I just kind of moved some of that so that the background wasn't so stark. Even though it's a cream color cardstock, it still looked too bright almost. So my next boo-boo was I took some picket fence distress picket fence is the white distress ink, and it's more like a pigment ink, and I wanted to add this to the background as like another layer, which I love this look. And this is where I took bear in mind this is script, so it's like writing, and I put the card on the wrong way because I'm going to have landscape. So if you have, just remember which way your card or your project is going, and if there's anything with writing or something that is directional, like writing would be, just make sure that when you stamp it or you ink it, or whatever you're doing with it, it's the right way around, so that it makes more sense. To be fair, you can't see this because I realized afterwards that the white pigment ink on the cream background was not going to show up anyway. You live and you learn. It's the first time I'd done that ever. So as a little background technique, there are bits of writing on the hearts. Some of them you can see it, but because I was turning this sideways, I then didn't worry about the fact that I couldn't really see them. It kind of helped that you couldn't see them very much. But it's still some extra added little bits in the background. And like I say, by turning the card landscape, didn't actually make any difference as far as the stencil went, because the hearts go upside down, back, right way up and sideways. So throughout the design, so it didn't actually matter when I turned this around. So learn from what I do and make it better for yourself. So what I now want to do is take the center panel and somewhat center it. You guys know I don't do straight lines, so this is going to be as straight as it's going to get on my in my eyes. And what I did was I put the double-sided tape on the back of the center panel, and then I'm going to line up the frame where I want the frame to be, as centered and straight as I can get it, and I'm just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to lay the center bit inside, so that's going to be stuck flush to the card. And then for the frame, I want to lift this up with some foam adhesive, and I do have these like strips of foam adhesive, which are actually really handy to have. I think they're only off Amazon, so you can just do a little search there. They're okay. They're better than some of the another brand that I had, which I won't knock or anything, because the brand itself is really good. But they had like a I think they call it shaker foam tape or something, so that you can make shaker cards, and so it was sort of a narrower foam tape, but I could never get the backing off of them, so I've had to laugh those ones off. But this is pretty good, and it's just a thin bit of foam tape. You can always cut down your wider foam tape and do exactly the same thing. I just happen to have this on hand. So once I'd got the foam on the back taken, the back is taken off, I then popped the frame up in around the centerpiece, and then started adding in my little pieces. Now the I love you part of the this is actually like what would go on the back of the Sunday Drive car, and I thought it kind of looked, this is what my head was saying, was that it was kind of like they were in a little drive-in, so it's kind of like the boot of the car, so like the back of a car, so it still kind of has that vibe. So anyway, that's where my head went. So I decided to pop that in the center and then add the little guy and girl in there. And I'm now just going to add some little doodads. This heart and I think all the little gems come from Lucy's Lucy's cards, sorry. I don't think she's open anymore. But she used to do some great little packs. You can see them in the top right there, of just gems and pearls, and there used to be ones, what were they? That clay, I was going to say clay hearts, but different shapes and things. And they were really inexpensive. They were really fantastic, but I think she's closed that now. But this is, I was just trying to find all the little gems. So there's gems and pearls and different shades of pinks and reds, and I think there's a creamy colour in there as well, if I remember right. Possibly. So I just grabbed all the the gem-like ones, as opposed to the pearls, and just dotted randomly some glue over the background, just to create some fun in the background. And then I was looking for two different sizes, so two of the smallest sizes were the ones that I was looking for, just to get some variation. And I didn't want them too big either, because the heart in the middle is kind of like the main gem, if you like. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I do add some glossy accents to the heart. I can't remember if I did that now or whether I do that afterwards, but I just a couple of things like that, just to lift it a little bit more. But I mean, I hope this has been fun to watch. All the mistakes I've made in this card. It was a while since I'd crafted. It's been a while since I've done video voiceovers and everything, so you just have to bear with me again. But we're getting there. So this is where I did decide to put the glossy accents now. That does look like it's all milky, and that it will dry beautifully clear, and glossy accents tends to have a bit more dimension to it than some of the other glazes. But yeah, that's the card. So very simple. It's a nice technique, just getting a little using your dies to create frames. It's very easy to do, and I hope that you have a good day and you try something like this yourself. Bye for now.